Hey everybody, this is Perch. Over the next 2 weeks, you're going to see a lot of videos about Starfire. No, or well, not Starfire, but that I Am Not Starfire, the daughter of Starfire, who's the goth, giant, nose-piercing, chubby daughter of Starfire. And I don't know, DC put up a video trailer for the comic, and it had like 33,000 downvotes. And anyway, does that worry DC? Well, probably not. But let me get into kind of a little bit, having not read I Am Not Starfire, and I will most likely read it, although I can't say I'm looking forward to it. Again, not because of her being fat or anything else, but because this clearly is a comic book that's not aimed at me. I mean, I am okay if comic books are made that aren't for me. All of us are, whether we want to admit it or not. We all kind of expect that. I mean, there's a My Little Pony comic. I'm guessing most of the people on this channel are not reading that. There's a Disney Princesses Tangled comic. Are you reading that? Probably not. But does it bother you that it exists? I mean, of course not. I Am Not Starfire is a little different because Starfire is a character in the DC universe. She does not have a daughter in the main DC universe. And so this is a comic or a graphic novel that's basically taking an existing property, in this case Starfire, kind of shunting it into a alternate kind of universe for the purposes of this graphic novel, introducing a lesbian, goth, teen, fat daughter, and then running what appears to be a pretty typical, I don't know, coming of age story of a girl who can't help but has no hope of living up to her mom's ideals. And at the end of the day, that's what I Am Not Starfire is. It's a comic about a Starfire is super popular, super sexy, high fashion, blissfully ignorant kind of in how she understands Earth culture. And her daughter, who understands Earth culture much more, is not her. She's got weird freckles and or acne. It's hard to tell. She's super into goth. She again, they drew her this giant like cow level nose ring. She's fat and she's gay, and so she's nothing like her mom. It's like the exact opposite of her mom. And her mom is going to be like, I don't understand why you can't just, be happy like me. And the daughter won't. So that's, but what would make the daughter happy, I think, is she's crushing on a more popular girl at school, or, I mean, who knows? At any rate, this comic will get lots of videos, lots of reviews. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it. It's not important. First off, this isn't a comic book, even though the artist said that they kind of hope this is the first of many books. It won't be. There's very low chance of this actually selling huge, just like there was no chance of Nubia Real One selling huge. We can, lots of people had opinions on Nubia, and we don't need to guess anymore at how it did. It did poorly. The sales were not great. It slipped out of the Amazon top 50 almost instantly, and it's selling next to nothing now. That was the result. It didn't catch. Lots of opinions on why it didn't catch, but the biggest one was it was a YA book that was aimed at kind of a middle school type audience, maybe a little older. That was its core demographic. I know there were lots of people like Greg Pak on Twitter is like, I'm definitely going to order this. That's nice, but Greg Pak is not the primary audience that the company is fishing for, nor is he the primary audience for I Am Not Starfire either, which he also says he's going to order. So, I mean, again, good for you, but everything has a core audience. And this is a thing that I think a lot of people, both who work in comics and customers, kind of forget. Everything has a core audience. When you stray outside that core audience, I mean, if people buy it, that's a nice bonus. If people hate it, that's kind of a bummer. But at the end of the day, the question is it reaching the core audience? So for Nubia, plenty of long existing comic fans saw that and hated it and were pissed that it existed. But they weren't the core audience. Nobody was assuming they were going to buy it in the first place. Others, again, there were plenty of people on Twitter who virtue signaled how they were going to buy 10 copies and everything else. It's unlikely that they did based on the sales numbers, but Once again, that wasn't the core audience. I mean, put it more specifically, Nubia, real one. Vita Ayala, Heather Ontos, Danny Lore, I believe all of them made compliments toward that book. And that's great. Nice that they can. Good for them. Unfortunately, none of them are the core audience for the book. Neither is Richard Meyer. Neither is, Greg Pak. Neither is Joe Quesada. Neither is all these. Neither is me. None of us are the core audience of the book, love it or hate it. So if the book's going to be successful, it has to nail it with the audience it's targeting. In this case, middle school, YA. Now with Nubia, the book quickly featured, a bunch of swearing, which was going to make it tough to put in school libraries. And it featured a school shooting, which was really going to make it tough to put in school libraries. And those kinds of things tended to scare away some of the, the outlets, the people who would normally push this book. So even though in 2020, books about racism and handling race topics did well in that a lot of big chains like Target and Walmart and Barnes & Noble and others, they carried them. So from a financial standpoint, arguably it should have been a good move. It wasn't. The book didn't do well. So what will happen with I Am Not Starfire? Well, hopefully the people who are making the book are bringing it down a little bit. Don't put any school shootings in there. Lay off the swearing as much as you can. I've already seen a couple pages where Mandy, I think the daughter, says fuck. And again, that's all going to create friction to getting your target audience to buy it. Maybe some of those people want to see that. I mean, lots of people can say, what's the big deal about the F word? But school libraries, plenty of them, won't carry the book if you're doing certain things that are going to bother libraries. That's just a fact. So, in the end, if I'm making a prediction, I don't think this book is going to do well. I think it's not marketed for the right audience, which is funny because the story it's telling, namely, awkward daughter coming of age, can't live up to the parents' ideals and is struggling and has things they want to do that maybe the parents don't understand. That story has been, how many times have we seen that story? That was Rapunzel in the Disney Tangled movie. That was part of Frozen, had aspects of that. That is one of the most overused old tropes. And it's overused because typically it's successful. Typically that trope works and people will buy it. But I think the creation of I Am Not Starfire, to me, feels like a marketing level effort, meaning somebody wanted to make a YA book. They sat down in a conference room brainstorming session and they're like, what if we did this and then this and let's add this. It feels like a book that was designed that way. Now, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who knows? Mariko Tamaki may have pitched this just as it is. But this book, inherently, the premise of it is not that original. Lots of people are dunking on the fact that the Starfire's daughter looks bizarre and she's drawn to look very piggish and everything else. And it's a weird visuals. At the end of the day, though, this premise is pretty threadbare. It's been done a lot. And that, in theory, that should, help it a little bit because it becomes a nice, safe option for libraries to order. But if you do things like say fuck in the book or other things, or God help us, put in a school shooting in this book, it's going to hurt the overall sales. So what will happen? I don't know. Like I said, you'll see a lot of people look at it. I'll try and, when it comes out, do some kind of review. Although if I pick it up and it's like a, paint by numbers kind of story that is exactly what I just described, then I'm not going to bother with a review, because why bother? Look, the girl is drawn grotesque. The end. What are you going to do about it? Is there anything to talk about? At the end of the day, my prediction is this book doesn't do well. Again, not because it offended longtime Starfire fans, not because, I don't know, Heather Ontos didn't promote it enough. I don't think it's going to do well because I don't think it's going to hit the target market it's going after, which are none of us, none of the people listening. I think it's going to miss. That was a problem with Nubia. I think that's going to be the problem with this one too. So the question ultimately for DC becomes, how do they get their YA market to work? Like, Primer did really well. Are we doing more books like Primer? If you're DC right now, that should be your mission. How do we do more things like Primer? Beast Boy and Raven Loves Beast Boy did okay. Not as good as Primer, but they did all right. They were like solid singles and doubles, whereas Primer was a home run. That Wonder Woman, where she's a little girl, that one did really well. That was the other one that, like Primer, was a home run. So if you're DC, probably before you start really experimenting, do more of those. Kind of like the MCU. Get more Captain Americas and Iron Mans out from under your belt, then do your Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you make that work, then you do the Eternals, or what? I don't know. The analogy's running kind of bare at this point. Anyway, there you go. Why did they make this book? Because they're making a very paint-by-numbers, coming-of-age story book. That's not the interesting question. The interesting question is this going to hit the target market? I suspect not, but we'll see. I actually, here's a funny thing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this book is a smash success. Why? Because I want DC and Marvel to be successful at things. I want the indies to be successful at things. I'm not at the point yet where I'm rooting for them to fail. I'm actually hoping these things that they try work. Why? Because I hate to see somebody screwing it up all the time. It's not fun for me. It's fun for others, and that's okay. If that's you, that's totally fine. But for me, it's not fun to watch people continuously shoot themselves in the foot. So I'm always rooting for success. What do you think? Why did they make this book? You let me know in the comments below, and thanks for listening.